Final lineup at Hampden on May 16th. You can see that Billy Abercrombie, who's I think hovering on the suspension zone in terms of number of bookings, is not present at all, and Frank McGarvey is a substitute, and you can bet your boots McGarvey, who scored in his last cup final, will be there for St Mirren in his next one. There's Celtic. They dropped a drastic point for them last week, a goal really they ought not to have conceded given the circumstances, but they did, and nevertheless Davy Hay is banking on the same players this afternoon. Referee today is Jim Renton from Cardiff. Well, Celtic kicking off on what I would judge to be one of the most glorious afternoons of a very long season, and they have very fond memories of what happened last time they played late in the season here, the very last game last year, when they won a league championship. Danny McClair. Different circumstances now, but I think a lot of people out in the Terringtons today will have transistors near them, listening to what's happening just up the road at Ibrox. Boris Johnson trying to wriggle free. David Winnie, number 5, watching him very closely. Paul McStay. Overdid it slightly, Ferguson. Now Hamilton. And there's McGugan. Well, that'll be a corner kick if he doesn't get the cross. Yes, corner kick. First corner of the match. What if a McLeod will curl this in with his left foot. He wants the St Mirren player Lambert away from there, and it does curl. McGugan is up. White. The only thing he could do was push it over the line. He was in a good position at the back. Johnston. Well, with the cross. Oh, the good effort though by Peter Grant. I think Celtic will have to try a lot of that. Build-up has been very nice. They haven't got hold of Brian McClair again yet, which is significant, but the fullback quite entitled to come forward like that and have a go. Pushing Monaghan McCloud, they not only pushed them, they sandwiched them, and he survives. Well, about 5 minutes ago, I would have said it was only a matter of time before Celtic broke this defence down. They look very fragile, but they've weathered the storm, beginning to put it together up front slightly. And there's McDowell and Bonner elegantly forward again. Good positioning though by Johnson. Now Brian McClair loves this position. Fitzgerald and that is what you call cool play. Neil Cooper. Gugan. I think Paul McGugan has the advantage over other people, of course, with these long legs of his. Ferguson. McStay fought hard for it, and well. Now Fitzpatrick. Just a trifle too casual there. Well-intentioned, and Aiken has decided to charge forward. That's a good ball. McInally trying to get that ball across. It must be a wonderful chance. Oh, this pass there. Monaghan McCloud with the St Mirren defence having committed themselves. Best attack so far by Celtic, with the menace coming originally from McInally. Money committed himself, he had to, and it was McCloud charging in. I think perhaps slightly put off by the presence of players around him. not able to get round the Celtic defence. That's the first opportunity they've had. Finding it very difficult to break Celtic down. Well, they're not really making many chances for themselves. That was Grant coming up and a better recovery. Johnston. This is Grant. Stay a little bit too slow. And McGrain forever trying. As Paul and McGugan. Johnson. There's Roy Aitken, and a little bit too strong. Well, I mentioned the pitches, the fineness of them, and the difficulty of players judging the passes on a surface like that. That was a classic instance of it. Grant, I think, perfectly right to try and bring Aitken into the game. McClair was looking for the 1-2, and he's done it. McClair has broken the Celtic club record. His 33rd goal of the season, and it may turn out to be an extremely valuable one. Now, he really took that well, because it looked as if he might have lost his opportunity initially. A very slack clearance there by the St Mirren defence. Have been guilty of it, and that is how they were punished. And that is with about 19 minutes gone, and no more than Celtic are due at this stage. Oh, so far a dreadful performance by St Mirren. That's McStay going forward. Who's at the end of that? Three Celtic players crowding each other out, and that really ought to be number 2. Here's Cooper. Cameron. There's Fitzpatrick. Ferguson outnumbered. McClair from a very deep position indeed. Johnston and offside. Deciding to come forward. Wilson. Oh yeah, free kick. Trying to hip throw Roy Aitken. Brave man that tries that. McInally after it again and slightly throwing his weight about. That will be a free kick to St Mirren this time. Looks as if McInally might be hot in that clash. Well, that's a bit of a sad sight. McInally actually falling on his hand. It may be a dislocation of some kind. He's holding his the index finger of his right hand. Celtic winning virtually everything in midfield. St Mirren being caught in possession. And Celtic naturally dominating the game as a result. So, free kick. Danny McGrain to take it. That's McGugan up. White. Conor McLeod, as usual, operating on the left. Sheer determination getting him through there. There's Campbell Money, and again the referee not really giving him any protection. And the referee got to have a word with Ferguson on something that happened off the ball. I think in an incident with Morden and McLeod, didn't happen here, of course. It was after this. There was a bit of a collision, and as the goalkeeper was going for it, there was an incident. And he gets a yellow card. Actually, Morden McLeod is telling the referee that if it's an incident and it happened in the box, it's a penalty. Well, that's explaining the rules for you, the laws, and a good side for Celtic. McInally has come back on. McClair again, and it's a beautiful goal. All superb. Magnificently struck by McClair. He really bent it right round. Now we're seeing that from the side of the goal, but I think it would be appreciated better from the full angle, because it's the sheer bend on the ball that did it. There was hardly any room for error, and he made no mistake. Ferguson. Terrible waste of the ball in midfield for St Mirren in this game. That's better play. Ferguson beautifully round his man, and it's a brilliant save. Well, I think all the hopes of Love Street rest on that man, Ferguson. He really could have put St Mirren back in the game. Delightful play. Wrong-footing the entire defence and finding the angle too difficult with a goalkeeper like that. Warner. McDowell after this. And it's a free kick. Yes. Warner impeded. Can't hold on that. He's getting nervous now. Dreadful blunder. He's out of his goal, trying to get back. And that's a goal kick. And the half-time whistle goes on, I think, a typical piece of play this afternoon, with the St Mirren defence looking extremely nervous indeed. I mean, at this stage, you've really got to say, based on what we've seen in the first 45 minutes, how many goals are Celtic eventually going to score? They've been so dominant. But it's been the afternoon of Brian McClair, little doubt about that. Two excellently taken goals. The first one, a typical opportunist effort. Looked as if he might have lost it, as I said earlier on, but he got that little blink and he put it away. And as for well-taken free kicks, for this one, 15 out of 10. Superb. Celtic 2 up at half-time. While St Mirren have done little to impress in this match, and they can now go out in the next 45 minutes and prove me wrong and everybody else wrong. All the way through. Oh, beautiful little touch, giving space to Lambert. That's not a bad ball. Fitzpatrick. Here's Ferguson. Warner committing himself and does well. And for the first time in the match, St Mirren have bothered the Celtic defence. Good ball coming down the left, set up there by McDowell. Lambert getting the freedom, and I think quite right to put that in like that, driving it across, and 3 St Mirren players almost there. No, Grant is there, so is McInally. Neat little piece of play by McClair and then McStay. Morris Johnson. McClair. And that's in. Oof. Well, it looked like it. Looks as if he'd pushed it right in. That really bothered Money. Across it went. Now watch Money. He hesitated, then realised it was coming closer, and he pushed it down. From this angle, it looked as if it was in the net. Corner kick. Grant, can he get the shooting position? He can. Under McLeod. Grant. Now taken up well there by Hamilton. Totally ruined that. I mean, he did have support on either side. And frankly, I think the youngster froze. Couldn't bring himself to part with it, and yet he needed to. Johnston. Good run by McInally. Wants to go himself, and he puts it too far to the side. I think Brian McClair thought he was going himself as well. McStay gets a corner. Quickly taken. Under McLeod, and that must be yes. 3-0. Wallace Johnston. And everybody watched him as he rose at it. I think for a moment people beside him thought the ball had been hit too strong across goal. But there he was, right behind it. Good work here by Muddy McLeod, looking for that far post. And there Johnston totally uncovered. And it nestles in the net. And on comes Frank McGarvey. There he is, the man who scored in his last game for Celtic to win them a cup. Good positive header by Brian Hamilton, and St Mirren are really trying hard to find some cohesion. Certainly giving no indication of any grand design in this side. Look at this, McGarvey totally outnumbered. McInally on the break. Appeals for a penalty, and I thought that was in the box myself. Once again, a dreadfully exposed St Mirren defence. Well, he went forward there, and there was the original touch, I thought. However, yet another 2 strides, so it's free kick. McLeod is going to let fly with this, and Campbell Money behind it. Charlie one, and McGarvey is after this against his old colleague, Roy Aitken. There's McGarvey, he'll try to the bitter end. Ferguson, Dowell. Roy Aitken there, McDowell. McGarvey, and still in with a chance. Here's McGarvey. Still he contrives to fall and pick himself up again, and he was quite simply outnumbered. Really had to have somebody beside him to give him support, and it wasn't there. Oh, Danny McGrain still gives his team a great contribution. McDowell, too obvious, but picked up by Fitzpatrick. McDowell, far too soft. He really should have dug in for that. McGarvey had done the spade one for him, and now we have the break by McStay. Offside, 20 minutes left, and Celtic really are cantering this. There's a big man with an injured hand. Not sure whether he's broken anything or just split the finger in some way. McGarvey going round the back, and he does what is a great goal. Oh, a typical Frank McGarvey goal. Right out of the blue. Yes, and a lot of Celtic supporters, you just saw a glimpse of them there. I've seen them do that before. And other colours. I mean, down it went, straight from the goal kick, or straight out of the defensive zone, and he fastened onto it. And that was a difficult ball to take, but done with great accomplishment. And off comes McClair. And on is Mark McGee. No, I think McClair indicated to the bench there was something wrong with him. Oh, McGarvey, bad ball to give McGarvey. Danny McGrain came right up to him. That's a good ball. There's McGarvey. Just got away with that. Puts it forward very neatly indeed to Hamilton. And once again, he's caught in possession. McGee after this. And there's Cooper. There goes McDowell. Didn't have any support in the right, waited for it to come, and it does in the shape of McWhirter. Oh, St Mirren taking time to get men into the box, and Will plucked out of the air. That was McDowell. The first clean header he's had all afternoon. Yes, he rose well to this. You would have thought McDowell would have had better cover, but he got in there and getting the best out of Bonner. McStay. Shouts from the dugout to hold that. McWhirter adding a bit of dig in midfield now. Mark McGee. John Burns. Burns, neat little flick on. There's no offside and a good save indeed. Oh, yeah, very courageous one at that. Roy Aiken again getting that touch. And loud shouts for a penalty kick, but not on. McDowell. Little tangle of legs. Powerful clearance by Money. McGugan's behind it. They don't know where the ball is, of course. And the challenge on McGugan that the referee didn't like. It's a free kick. Ferguson. McGee turned on it. Nice turning by McGee. And it just put by McInally. Good move by Celtic in the last 30 seconds. Mark McGee making an impact on the game for the first time. He's always done that so well, wrong-footing people, and McInally falling off balance. As the final whistle goes, the final score 3-1. And there is Frank McGarvey, the man who really transformed St Mirren in the second half. McGarvey, whose play ought to inspire his side in the cup final.
They'll certainly hope it does. Well, Celtic in no danger of slipping up in that game, and indeed they played much better football today in the first half in particular than they did last week against Dundee United. But I just wonder if the feeling that the title is getting beyond them is responsible for a certain amount of laxity coming into the play times. And with goals counting as well, they certainly will be kicking.